dkdynamite, and tonight I have surprisingly another zombie video here for you guys. Some not so good news for hardcore fans, a funny update on Dr. Monty even, plus even more. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, drop a like, and make sure you have notifications on to stay up to date with everything going on in Cold War Year 2, Modern Warfare 2, and any other future Call of Duty as well. And once again, this is one of those weeks where nothing is really happening. I think this is the 4th week in a row where there really hasn't been much said from the official Call of Duty account. No marketing for the mid-season update in Vanguard, and we're still patiently waiting for any of that Year 2 content that's currently delayed, whether it's the multiplayer maps, the bundles, maybe even some zombie surprises, the game modes that got reported on by scoopers. There really hasn't been much happening, but thank you all for the support on all the recent videos, right? Trying to keep the channel alive, trying to keep you guys updated with anything out there that is going on that may not be official from the Call of Duty accounts out there, so really appreciate all of that. But in my last zombie video a few days ago, we did discuss some really hopeful news about the future iteration of zombies as we know it, thanks to a couple of promotions that got announced behind the scenes over at Treyarch. One of them being Kevin Drew, who will now be a lead designer in the next iteration of the mode. There was actually a reply to the promotion that I didn't get a chance to cover. It's from King Skylark, legendary lead sound designer over at Treyarch, who went ahead and said, and I quote, "I can't wait to make you some sounds for things that neither of us can talk about, maybe a boom or a kablooey. Seriously, congrats, dude. It's been a joy to work with you over the years." So really heartfelt replies over on Twitter. We talked more about that in the previous video, of course, but we can safely speculate that this is in reference to zombies primarily, considering Kevin Drew has ultimately been working on zombies over the last couple of years above anything else. So I think it's a good sign that they do have quite a bit planned already for whatever the next zombies mode is going to look like. And maybe that's even connected to the strong rumors we've heard about from other scoopers in regards to a standalone zombies project and something that may be happening that is zombies related in 2023. But to build on that, we then got a tweet from the scooper Ralph's Val, who's been posting quite a bit of early info about the second Modern Warfare game, in which, in one of the replies that he gets to that tweet, somebody teases him about whether or not Zombies Chronicles 2 is happening with that meme, as you can see. Ralph then replies with, and I quote, "Don't hold your breath, you won't hear any word on that until 2024 and 2025. So this might crush people's hopes and dreams right now about potentially seeing a Chronicles 2 added to Cold War. I've seen some fun theories saying that it could even still drop in Black Ops 4, and I think the first thing you guys are thinking is, well, what happened to the Victus maps that we can actually see for ourselves inside of Black Ops 4, whether it's Olive Berry that's in Blackout, whether it's the various transit and die-rise assets that are spread throughout multiplayer. We have the Victus operators in that game. Why can't they just quote-unquote port everything over and just drop it right now?" And here's the thing, right? For Cold War, that might be possible, considering BO4 and Cold War aren't too different from one another in terms of how the games were built. But if you look at exactly what's already been confirmed by Treyarch themselves, the reason why Vanguard Zombies is the way that it is isn't just because of time constraints, but they also had to start from scratch, right? And learn how to use the Modern Warfare engine from the ground up. So they couldn't really port things over easily and just get things slapped together and get everything out there as fast as they could. They had to learn a whole new engine. So if the next Call of Duty they're working on is also on the Modern Warfare engine, then they can't just bring over assets that may in fact already be done and ready to go for Black Ops 4. And if you guys are like, well, just drop it in Cold War then, who cares? I'm like, yeah, well, maybe they just don't see a reason to drop a Chronicles 2 in Cold War, or they feel like it fits better in their next game instead of the one that's currently out of its cycle. I know there's a Year 2, but that's really just for multiplayer and bundles. So there's a lot of things we can take away from this statement alone, but I think what's ultimately really confusing, as I also iterated on the podcast recently, is that we currently have multiple projects that zombies may be connected to. I mean, firstly, we have a tweet also from Ralph's Valve teasing zombies for 2023, and we're like, wait, what is that? And at that time, when that was teased by him, that was already after it was confirmed by the press that Treyarch's next game is being pushed to 2024. We also have their next game in 2024, which we know for a fact is going to have zombies, so that's project number 2. Project number 3 is then the standalone zombies project that Tom Henderson has heard about as of, I think, a year ago. Hasn't heard much about it since, but he assumes that that is still happening. So is that something for 2023? That's also a big unknown. And the 4th project that we're all really confused about is the free-to-play COD that apparently is going to feature building, and is a game that Treyarch's also supposedly helping with. And if Sledgehammer is leading that free-to-play game, then we could just safely assume that 2023 is the best opportunity to drop that game, since it'll be kind of a filler year anyway when Modern Warfare 2 gets a second year of support, Warzone 2, but then there won't be an annual Call of Duty like we're accustomed to releasing that year. So that would be a good chance to drop that. Is zombies in that game though? Maybe that's what Treyarch's helping on specifically for that free-to-play game? It's totally plausible. I mean, if the game features building, maybe it is some type of custom map maker type application where you can make your own multiplayer maps or your own zombies experiences with, you know, dev kits and tools that are given to you in that app, and then you can also play online with your friends and invite them to the custom games that you make. Maybe that's what that project is, and that's how zombies can connect to that. There's a lot of things we can speculate on at this moment in time, and take it all with a grain of salt, of course. I'm just putting together this video to really kind of round up a lot of the information that you guys are probably really confused about at this point, because there's information pouring in from all over the place, from reputable scoopers, Treyarch themselves. We also have the mystery surrounding the Microsoft acquisition and how that'll impact Call of Duty and zombies specifically as we know it. And here's the thing, right? What if Zombies Chronicles 2 and that standalone zombies project that got rumored are one in the same? Maybe it's not going to be called Chronicles 2, as I mentioned in my previous video. Maybe that standalone zombies app is really just a really cool zombie collection featuring all maps faithfully remastered in full HD for current gen hardware. So if that's not until 2024 or 2025, then you're probably like, well, what's the 2023 Zombies tease then from Ralph? That's what we don't know right now, and that's, I think, the biggest question mark of all. But on the bright side, I'm like, look, that's not that far away, and I think that's a good sign for those out there who might be a bit worried about kind of the impact Modern Warfare 2 is going to have, specifically for people that only care about zombies, or even content creators that only care about zombies. I think that tease from Ralph alone does have everybody a little bit more hopeful now that they don't have to wait too long for the next iteration of our beloved game mode. Now, I think another reason why a zombies collection makes sense and could be what Chronicles 2 really is because in Black Ops 4, yeah, we got some remakes for Mob of the Dead 5, Nuketown, Call of the Dead. I get that, but they're not faithful remasters with the original map layouts, the original crews, the original Easter eggs, and I think people out there would love to see that, even if the Victus maps, for example, have some fairly flawed quests. I mean, Transit and Dire Eyes at least, but to see all maps in beautiful HD on current gen, I think would really improve not only the stability of those maps that may not have played that well back then, but also people's experiences with them who may not have access to PS3s and 360s anymore, or PC where they can't play them. I think it would still make sense to just bring the original versions back and still do remakes in the future where they change things up, add extra sections to the maps, and do what Black Ops 4 did. Do that again in the future, sure, but I think a proper collection would also be really appreciated by the community. Now, right when Ralph mentioned 2025, I'm also like, okay, well, what if we end up getting a Black Ops 2 remaster, which would be poetic in 2025 considering the events of that game's campaign take place in that year. So maybe we get a full Black Ops 2 remaster with campaign, multiplayer, and the zombies mode, since I think that would make the most sense. The 3 Victus maps never got remastered a single time, in zombies at least. I mean, if they include that in Black Ops 2 remaster, that counts, that works. If Grand Theft Auto 5 could be re-released several times, then you could do a full remaster at least once for our Victus maps and for Black Ops 2 altogether, which of course everybody would want to see, regardless if you like the campaign, the multiplayer, the zombies. Everybody would collectively come to the agreement that that game definitely deserves a remaster on current gen hardware. So that could be what happens, where in maybe 2025, a year after Treyarch's next Black Ops game comes out, they say, hey, let's celebrate the Black Ops 2 campaign a little bit, remaster the entire game, and drop everything that was a part of it without leaving out any of the maps. Now, shall I also remind you that there was a zombies mode planned for Modern Warfare 2019. People out there tend to forget that there's actually screenshots out there of some of the concept art that was put together for this mode, and people out there who do have fancy computers did data mine some really interesting information about this scrap zombies mode, talking about, I think, the farm area of Verdansk being used as a zombie section, a wonder weapon even, a boss. There were some really interesting lines of code that were posted online, which I can't show you on screen for obvious reasons, but maybe maybe some of that could be revisited in the upcoming DMZ game mode that is going to be like Escape from Tarkov. Maybe not during year 1, but maybe year 2 of Modern Warfare 2 could bring us some type of zombies experience from Infinity Ward. And I know Lee Ross and the crew that was at Neversoft that worked on Infinite Warfare zombies, I know they aren't there anymore, but maybe somebody is still at Infinity Ward that's interested in bringing some type of zombies experience to Modern Warfare 2 that isn't trying to be a clone of Treyarch Zombies, but something just different for their DMZ type experience. Ralph already went ahead and confirmed that that mode will have quests and a lot to do, so maybe there will be a quest at some point that could even just be an Easter egg, but something that features zombies, maybe along the lines of the outbreak we saw in Verdansk last year, where you can hold square on a machine, zombies spawn in, you can take them down and unlock a free reward. Something as simple as that could end up coming. But something I have written down here, which I almost forgot, I think this is something that you guys definitely didn't think about. Imagine if Vanguard Zombies was truly a banger, then I don't think, at least not right now, anybody would be complaining about the long wait for the next iteration of Zombies. And there are some pretty valid complaints out there that, you know, Vanguard Zombies isn't it, and now we have to wait another 2.5 years for the next mode. I get how that sounds frustrating, but it's like I always remind you guys, short term, doesn't look good, it's a bit frustrating, all of us are getting impatient, sure, but long term it could be a really smart decision to ensure the most amount of content gets included in whatever they're working on next. But if Vanguard Zombies was popping right now and everybody loved it, then realistically it would only really be one game's life cycle where we just wouldn't have any zombies, at least not from what we understand right now. So, considering Vanguard Zombies in the dump that it's in right now, it is going to feel like 2 full games in a row where nothing is really going on or happening for zombies as we know it. But, you know, with the rumor of something happening in 2023, that is a bit of hope. That's light at the end of the tunnel. But if nothing happens in 2023, then yeah, I feel you guys. 2024 is a little bit of time away, right? That's the next election. That's crazy to think about. So, with that being said, we will have to wait and see how this wait for the next Zombies mode does feel for the community. But now check this out, right? A special message from the voice actor Malcolm McDowell about Dr. Monty.
Hi, Kurt. How are you? This is Malcolm McDowell. Thank you for your message. It was interesting that you're so into Call of Duty Zombies, which I have to be honest and say I've never actually played it, and I hope it's good. I really enjoyed playing Monty. He was such a great character. And, you know, it was very well written, I thought. And then they let me sort of go off on my own and do some, you know, improv. So it was a lot of fun to do. I thought they would ask me back to do another one, but they never did, so I don't know. But he was a really interesting character. I mean, he was described to me as being like a godlike figure and knew everything, knew there was nothing he didn't know about. And a wise old soul. And, you know, you do a lot of photographs. They take photographs of every inch of your head, like 250 of them or something. And they build this whole character around you. And even the costume, I thought the costume was fantastic. Anyway, yes, I can see why you enjoyed it. And
now, I just saw this video earlier today, and people out there on Twitter were interpreting this video as, oh, this is confirmation that Aether wasn't supposed to be included in Black Ops 4, and I get why that is still speculated, I really do. I mean, you can definitely tell the heavy focus on Chaos for Black Ops 4, even pre-release, with the pre-order bonus, the Collector's Edition, with just kind of the way they marketed the mode altogether, you can tell that, yeah, Aether would have come back eventually, but they probably wanted to do Chaos during year 1, and then maybe do Aether during year 2. And I think that would have been an interesting way to do it. I just think the best plan of action for them would have been to open up with Aether, fully end it the way they intended, and then for a year 2 do the Chaos storyline. But maybe, you know, not too far into Black Ops 4's cycle, they found out they had to work on COD 2020 because Sledgehammer couldn't finish it. They had to make Black Ops Cold War, so they said, yeah, we don't have time for a year 2 for Black Ops 4. We gotta do everything right now, so they put together what they could for Chaos. That got canceled eventually, and then obviously had to conclude Aether in a couple of fewer maps that they originally probably intended to end Aether with. So I get why to this day people still believe that Aether wasn't going to come back. We have some great replies from zombie fanatics and storyline experts Eric Maynard and Cal Jitsu, who said said, and I quote, "They 100% plan on continuing after the end of BO3, especially if you read a lot of the ciphers and stuff. This to me just means there was never the budget or time, which is pretty much what we all assumed anyway. He's by no means a small name." Absolutely, I mean, that's a given. And then we have Cal saying that's not really evidence whatsoever though. The entire purpose of the comics and the majority of the ciphers in BO3 was to say, yeah, this isn't the end. So even the end of Revelations, where it says the end, that's very clearly just the end of the cycle. All the ciphers, the comics, all the teasers in game clearly hint that we need to break the cycle. So that's why I never understood the argument that, oh, Aether was going to be over after BO3. It's like, well, were they really going to just end on that note where the cycle continues forever and there's no conclusion? That's anticlimactic as fuck. And if I remember correctly, nobody out there was a huge fan of the ending of Revelations either. Everybody felt let down. They felt like there was so much they were building towards, it just didn't happen in that game's Easter egg, or in that map's Easter egg, I should say. So I think everybody out there was hoping for a continuation to really move the story forward and not just have it in this cycle, in this endless loop. No pun intended there. So the thing about Monty as well, as I mentioned many times in the past over the last couple of years, right? I think the way he was abruptly introduced in Black Ops 3 felt kind of odd. And the fact we didn't see him at all in Black Ops 4 kind of felt like his character just wasn't fleshed out the way that it was meant to be. And maybe that's just a flaw on the character's part where they just couldn't find the creative way to continue his arc. If they didn't have the budget to bring the actor back, they couldn't even morph him into his apothecary form and have him with a different voice. They didn't even choose to do that in BO4, so that's why I'm like, yeah, Craig certainly felt like he was able to conclude the story without even really using him that much. So that kind of shows you just how weird of a character Monty was and how the impact he left behind wasn't as big as what people probably think. The saga probably would have ended the same even if they had CGI cutscenes and did a big Great War map that I still can't really picture. Even if they did, you know, a couple of extra Aether maps that are in original locations, I still think the story would have ended probably in the same place, even if it featured an extra cutscene or an extra boss fight or two where we actually face Monty, speak to him, hear him do something. I mean, I still think Craig had a pretty rough idea of how Aether was going to end at the end of BO3 and still stuck to that despite probably having to make some changes because of budget and time constraints. I do believe we'll end up getting even more references to the old Aether saga whenever they make sense though, right? I don't think Craig is a big fan of nostalgia baiting or just kind of having that shock factor just for the sake of having one. I think he truly cares about really rich writing, rich storytelling. Even if you guys out there are like, well, we didn't have a set crew in Cold War, Craig proved that you don't need that. I mean, you never needed that. I think it adds some spice to the story, but he found a way to tell the story in a different way, and I don't believe it'll be told the same way in their next game. I think they'll find a better way to give us all the lore without having to collect hundreds of pieces of intel, because even I have a problem with having too much intel. But overall, the more the merrier at the same time, right? To play devil's advocate, I think more lore, the better. I mean, the more depth they can add to the story, fuck it, why not? Let's do it. And I personally believe that we might even get a quote or a cipher or even a radio one day that just brings up the legacy, so to speak, that Monty, the Shadow Man had, and some of the characters that won't be returning, but I think hardcore fans would love to appreciate a reference of. And with Sam in the Dark Aether now, I wouldn't be surprised if she comes across some other references to some fan favorite characters, or characters we haven't heard of in a while from the old Aether saga that maybe could somehow influence the future narratives we see in our new Dark Aether story. When she went in the first time, she obviously found the gear of Primus, so who knows what else she can find when she's in there for even longer this time around, at least presumably. I mean, there's a lot of interesting arcs we can see from Sam as a character, and especially some even cooler references that we can get to characters that Craig, I can promise you, did not forget about whatsoever. And with that being said, that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on Ralph saying that a Chronicles 2 isn't going to happen for the next couple of years? How are you feeling about that video from Malcolm McDowell? And also, what are your thoughts on the future of zombies as we know it? Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.